The river mist clung to Babylon like a damp wool cloak as Idun stepped onto his rooftop. Below, the Euphrates slid past mud-brick houses, its currents choked with reed boats heading toward the docks. To the east, the Ishtar Gate's turquoise tiles caught the first sun, bulls and dragons writhing in blue glaze, watching over a city still shaking off sleep. Temple bells clanged in the distance, their bronze voices mingling with the grunt of donkeys and the slap of water against the quays. Another day in the belly of the world, Idun thought. His grandfather swore Babylon drank from the river's soul, but today the water smelled of silt and dead fish. Today was about silver. In the courtyard below, his wife, Rimat, knelt beside the grinding stone, barley kernels cracking like tiny bones beneath the roller. Her hands moved in the steady rhythm of 20 harvest seasons. "The tax collector came yesterday," she called up without looking. "Took 2 shekels for the granary tax. Hammurabi's men tally faster than they blink." Idun's jaw tightened. He'd seen the new steles planted in every district, the king's laws carved in black diorite, glaring like an accusation. If a man owes a debt and the storm inundates his field, storms were the god's business. Taxes were a knife at a merchant's throat. He descended to his counting room, fingers brushing the cedarwood chest where his tablets slept. The oldest one felt cool and gritty. Ur-Nammu the brewer's debt, 2 shekels of silver due at the harvest moon. Beside it lay his real hope, 7 ingots of tin from the eastern mountains, each ringed for easy breaking. Tin was freedom. Tin bought Phoenician cedar, Anatolian copper, the lapis lazuli that made priests' eyes gleam. As he weighed the largest ingot, his son burst through the bead curtain, breathless. "Father, the dredgers left their silt heap at our quay again. The Shamash's light can't dock." The streets swallowed Idun in noise and stench. Date sellers shouted over pottery hawkers. A water clock's overflow channel gurgled the second hour past dawn. At the weaver's stall, he ran a thumb over coarse linen. 15 tin rings per bolt, he stated. The weaver's laugh was bitter. "Blame the palace quotas. They demand enough linen to shroud Marduk's ziggurat. My looms eat more flax than Nippur grows." They settled for 18 rings and a promise of barley. Silver was scarce since the last flood drowned the southern fields. Down at the Barashim docks, chaos reigned. Phoenician sailors muscled cedar logs down gangplanks, while temple scribes scratched cargo lists onto wax tablets. And there, beside Idun's blocked berth, stood Billy Robbie, the canal inspector, picking his teeth with a bronze pin. "You've silted my quay," Idun accused. The official's smile didn't touch his eyes. "The river does as Enki wills. 5 shekels might persuade the god to clear your path." Idun's hand clenched. He'd paid the water tax to Enki's priests at the New Year. Now this leech wanted his blood too. As he turned away, a shape darted from behind a grain silo. Damig, the beer seller, eyes wild as a cornered rat. "Idun Saru!" The man clutched his arm, reeking of sour malt. "The loan sharks came at dawn. They'll take my son if I don't pay 10 shekels by sunset." Idun stared at the brewer's trembling hands, hands that once poured the sweetest date beer in Babylon. "I borrowed silver for barley," Damig whispered, "but the flood—" Always the flood, Idun thought. Debt was a serpent that bit kings and carpenters alike. He gripped Damig's shoulder. "Come to my warehouse at sunset. We'll find a way." Beyond them, Hammurabi's stele watched with stone eyes. If a man holds a debt against another man, The words seemed to pulse in the morning heat. Somewhere in the palace gardens, the king's accountants were already rolling their cylinder seals across clay. Idun adjusted his sack of tin. Babylon ran on barley and blood and trust. Without it, the city would drown in its own rivers.
The sun hammered Babylon's streets into shimmering waves of heat as Idun trudged toward the Ima granary. Dust coated his sandals, gritty as crushed bricks. Around him, the city pulsed like an overburdened donkey. Slaves hauled water jars up stepped streets. A Kandimu priest in blood-spattered robes hurried toward Marduk's ziggurat, clutching a lamb for sacrifice. And everywhere the smell of baking bread mixed with the tang of urine from alleyways. He passed the Beta Siri, the debtor's prison, where a man's wails slithered through reed walls. "By Shamash's light, I'll repay!" The voice cracked like drying mud. Idun quickened his steps. Debt was a cage whose bars tightened by the hour. At the palace granary complex, shadows pooled like spilled ink beneath towering mud-brick arches. A line of merchants snaked toward scribes perched on reed mats, their styli darting across damp clay. Idun recognized Namtar Zeru, the chief grain measurer, his scalp gleaming with scented oil beneath a linen headband. The man's fingers danced over a stack of sutu vessels, standardized jars holding 6 liters each. "Next! Quality!" Namtar barked without looking up. "Upper Euphrates barley," Idun declared, hefting a sack. "Cleaned twice over." Namtar plunged a bronze scoop into the grain. "Gritty, infested," he spat a date pit. 20 shekels silver per gur." Idun's knuckles whitened. Robbery. "That barley fed Hammurabi's garrison at Sippar last winter." "Then let Hammurabi pay you," Namtar sneered. "The palace takes only pure grain, unless—" His eyes flicked toward Idun's tin sack. A commotion erupted behind them. 2 Reedham soldiers dragged a farmer toward the prison. "My field yielded half," the man screamed. "The locusts," a scribe recited tonelessly. "If a storm destroys a man's crop, he remains liable for his debts." Idun's throat tightened. Damon's face flashed before him. 10 shekels by sunset, or a child enslaved. The same law, he realized. The same unblinking stone eyes. He slid a tin ingot across Namtar's table. "For your discretion." The measurer's hand vanished beneath his robe. 30 shekels per gur. "And your dock tax?" "Overdue." "Bastard!" But Idun nodded. The tin was meant for Syrian cedar. Now it greased the gears of greed. As Namtar stamped his tablet with the palace seal, a star and sun disk, a sand-laden wind howled through the arcade. Idun tasted grit on his tongue. Shamash's anger, the priests would say. To him, it smelled of ruin. Damik's brewery crouched in the shadow of the Ishtar Gate like a wounded animal. The vats stood empty, their clay sides stained with the ghost of fermented dates. The air, usually thick with sweetness, reeked of vinegar and fear. "Idian Saru!" Damik stumbled from a back room, eyes red-rimmed. "They returned. Ubalitum's thugs. Said if I don't pay—" He thrust a crudely notched tally stick at Idun. 10 gouges, 10 shekels. "They took my daughter's dowry beads, my wife's—" His voice shattered. Idin studied the brewer's calloused hands, hands that could turn barley and dates into liquid gold. Now they trembled. "Who holds your debt?" "Gimel-Ishkur, that Akkadian jackal who loans silver at 1/5 monthly interest." Illegal. Hammurabi's code, Law 88, capped loans at 1/3. But Gimel-Ishkur hid behind temple connections, his thugs as untouchable as Marduk's priests. "Show me your stock," Idin ordered. In a storeroom, jugs of spoiled beer soured in the gloom. But beneath a reed mat, Damik revealed 10 amphorae of strong dark, a reserve batch for the New Year festival. "My last worth," he whispered. Idin uncorked a jug. The scent hit him. Honeyed dates, smoked barley, the deep earthiness of river water yeast, liquid treasure. "Load them on my boat," he said. "I'll sell them in Eshnunna. Their merchants pay double for Babylonian beer." Damik's hope flared like a dying ember. "But the loan sharks demand silver, not promises," Idin finished grimly. "Meet me at sunset and pray to Nisaba for a fair wind." As he stepped back into the furnace blast of noon, a priest's chant drifted from Etmenanki. "Marduk, judge of gods, whose word crushes mountains." Above, the sun glared like a bronze shield. Below, the debt clock ticked. The Guffaw boat shuddered as Idin poled away from Babylon's docks, its bitumen-coated reeds groaning under the weight of Damig's amphorae. Behind them, the Ishtar gate shrank to a blue scar on the horizon. Before them, the Euphrates sprawled like a coiled bronze serpent, its waters thick with silt and secrets. Damig huddled among the beer jars, his fingers tracing the Pythos seals, bowl and barley stalk, symbols of Ninkasi's blessing. "They'll follow us," he whispered, eyes darting to the riverbanks where tamarisk shadows danced like assassins. "Gimel-Ishkur has eyes on every quay." Idin didn't answer, his gaze fixed on the northern bend where the river narrowed. Pirate Gorge, sailors called it. Just yesterday, a Mari trader's body had washed ashore there, throat slit, cargo gone. He touched the bronze dagger at his belt, its edge honed on Hittite whetstone. "Keep low, Pharaoh's fly," he ordered. "Your beer's worth nothing spilled." A vulture circled overhead as the current quickened. The heat grew viscous, pressing down until the air shimmered like a mirage. Damig's voice cracked through the stillness. "I didn't borrow for barley alone." He uncurled a trembling palm, revealing a lapis amulet shaped like a lung. "My boy, the cough that wouldn't cease. The Asu priestess demanded 10 shekels for the healing ritual. She swore Enki would cleanse his breath." Idin watched the amulet catch the light, so blue it hurt. "Fool," he thought. Every merchant knew temple healers peddled false miracles. But he'd seen Damig's son gasping like a beached fish at last moon's market. "The boy died at dawn," Damig choked. "The same hour the loan came due." Before Idin could speak, the reed thickets exploded. 3 men surged from the river, lean as jackals, leather kilts dripping, obsidian blades in hand. "Akitu tribute for the river gods," their leader snarled, teeth filed to Elamite points. Idin's blood froze. These were no ordinary pirates. Their foreheads bore the star brand of Gimel-Ishkur's collectors. "Take the beer," Damig begged, but Idin was already moving. His dagger met the first attacker's thrust in a spray of sparks. Bronze shrieked against obsidian as the Gufa rocked violently. An amphora shattered, flooding the deck with honey-dark beer. The scent, sweet and fermented, mingled with the coppery tang of blood as Idin's blade found a rib cage. "The ledger!" the branded man gasped, dying fingers clutching Idin's tunic. Gimel-ishkur knows you carry the brewer's debt. A sand-laden wind howled suddenly, swallowing his last words. The haboob descended like divine wrath, choking the river in ochre fog. Idin threw himself over the remaining jars as the world vanished in a stinging vortex. Somewhere in the howling brown, Damig screamed a curse to the gods who'd abandoned him. They limped into Eshnuna as the sun bled westward, the Guffa's hull gashed, 5 precious amphorae lost to river or thieves. Idin counted their silver salvation. 7 jars remained, enough to clear half Damig's debt if the price held. The foreign city boiled with frenzied commerce. Assyrian mercenaries hawked captured Hittite swords, while Elamite slavers paraded shackled Mitanni girls. Idin hid Damig's spear behind sacks of emmer wheat. Gimel-ishkur's spies wore many disguises. At the beer market stall, a pock-bellied merchant named Ur-Zigar sniffed a sample jug. "Babylonian swill," he scoffed, though his eyes betrayed greed. 3 shekels per jar. "This is Etamananki's own brew," Idin shot back, slamming down the jug. "Strained through sacred linen, 10 shekels. Ur-Zigar laughed, spitting date pulp. "More! Your ziggurat shatter doesn't reach here, river rat." He leaned close, reeking of garlic and deception. "But I'll pay 7 if you take these off my hands." He unveiled 12 crudely forged hack-silver rings, silver scraps merchants used in border trades. "Assyrian counterfeits," Idin hissed, recognizing the bubbled edges. Passing these could mean losing a hand under Eshnuna's laws. "Take the deal," Damig whispered desperately. 7 shekels is suicide," Idin finished. But as he hesitated, a scarred face materialized in the crowd. Gimel-ishkur's enforcer, Beli Shunu. Time evaporated. 5 genuine shekels per jar, Idin countered, and a guarantor's seal. He pointed to Ur-Zigar's Terhatum tablet, the debt contract binding him to Eshnuna's palace. The merchant's smile died. "You're as cool as the code," he muttered, stamping the deal onto clay. As silver changed hands, Beli Shunu's hand closed on Idin's shoulder. "My master awaits your return," he breathed, with interest. The Guffa drifted through the sandstorm's dying breath, its hull scarred by obsidian blades and grit. Idin crouched beside the shattered amphora Damig had tried to save. Amid shards and spilled beer, a gleam caught his eye. Not bronze or silver, but the cold blue fire of lapis lazuli. Dozens of raw stones, larger than a thumb joint, lay half-submerged in the dregs. "Nisaba's wisdom," Damig whispered, paling. "That priestess, she paid me to hide them, said Enki's temple would seize them if..." Idin seized the brewer's tunic. "You smuggled temple loot? Under my seal? She promised silver for my boy's cure. But the stones, they came from Elam, stolen from Ishtar's inner sanctum." Idin's blood turned to ice. Theft from a temple meant impalement, based from Law 6 of Hammurabi's code. Gimel-ishkur hadn't just wanted debt repayment, he'd needed to silence Damig. Ramat met them at the quay, her eyes hollow. Behind her, the warehouse doors hung, splintered. "They came at noon," she said, voice frayed. "Tore apart every sack, took your tin ingots, and this." She uncurled her fist. A carved obsidian lion. Idin's grandfather's trade charm from Dilmun lay in fragments. "Where's our son?" Idin demanded. "Gone to the 92 priestesses, to pledge himself as a temple slave." Ramat's tears cut tracks through the dust on her cheeks. "He heard Gimel Ishkur's thugs swear to take him for your debt." Idin stared at the lapis stones burning in his palm. Temple thief, debt enslaver. Babylon's justice was a scale weighted with gold. He had one path left. The temple precinct reeked of myrrh and animal blood. Idin pushed past bull-headed Lamassu statues, Damig trembling behind him. Before the inner sanctum, a Naditu priestess in a lapis-studded veil barred their way. "No merchants beyond this point," she intoned. "I seek Beltane," Idin hissed, thrusting a lapis stone into her hand. "Tell her the Elamite stones have returned." The priestess recoiled as if scalded. Moments later, they stood before Beltane, the high priestess who'd commissioned Damig's smuggling. Her eyes, coal-rimmed and pitiless, reflected the sacred flame. "You cost me 12 shekels of silver," she said, stroking a caged hyena. "And attracted the wrong eyes. Gimel Ishkur knows about the stones," Idin lied. "He waits outside now. Only your authority can void Damig's debt." Beltane's laughter echoed coldly. "You bargain like a desert Assyrian, but I do need a scapegoat." She snapped her fingers. A scribe unrolled a clay tablet. "Sign this. Confess you stole the lapis for Syrian traders. Spend 6 moons in the Bit Assyri debtor's pit, and I'll clear the brewer's debt." Damig moaned. "Idin Saru, don't!" But Idin was already reaching for the stylus. Prison was better than a death spike. As Idin pressed his cylinder seal into the tablet, the courtyard erupted. Gimel Ishkur strode through the Lamassu gate, temple guards at his back. Beltane's veil slipped, revealing raw panic. "Did you think I wouldn't track your stones, priestess?" Gimel Ishkur's voice dripped venom. "Or your plot to sell Ishtar's jewels to marry rebels?" He turned to Idin. "And this worm played your courier." "Lies!" Beltane shrieked. "He confessed! The tablet—" "Shows your seal demanding lapis from Elam!" Idin shouted, snatching the tablet. He'd recognized the cuneiform sign for tribute. Beltane had ordered the theft, not just received it. Gimel Ishkur's smile was a death warrant. "Law 6 of the code applies to both thieves and temple robbers. Guards, impale the priestess, enslave the merchants." As soldiers surged forward, Idin did the unthinkable. He smashed the confession tablet against the altar stone. Clay shards flew like shrapnel. "No proof now, jackal!" In the chaos, Damig grabbed Idin's arm. "The Watergate! Run!" The Sikatu sewer swallowed them whole. Idin gagged on the stench of offal and decay as he waded through chest-deep sludge, Damig's whimpers echoing in the brick-lined tunnel. Above, Gimel Ishkur's soldiers pounded along the quay. "Ma'ir! Seal the outflow grate!" a voice bellowed. Idin's fingers found the groove. The hidden canal his grandfather had shown him, dug by debt slaves after the Great Flood. They emerged gasping behind the Agibi family's archive house, its walls scarred by creditors' marks. Damig clutched the lapis amulet. "Why save me? My foolishness destroyed us." "Because debt chains us all," Idin rasped. "Now move! Your son needs you." Ramat stood before the stone trough of purification, her son's slave contract clutched in blistered hands. The Naditu priestess Ninshibur eyed her with contempt. Your boy is Ishtar's property now. Law 170 of the code is clear. Temple vows override maternal claims. Rimat unrolled a worn papyrus, her dowry deed from Sippar. Determined. But Law 171 overrides you. If a father gifts property to his daughter, it is hers beyond all claims. This proves the silver I paid for his freedom. She slammed down 5 shekels and the deed. Ninshubur traced the cylinder seal of Rimat's father, a lion devouring the sun. "Clever merchant's daughter," she hissed. But as she reached for the silver, Rimat spotted the lapis amulet design on Ninshubur's bracelet, identical to Damig's. Shocked. You prescribed the boy's cure. You poisoned him for Beltani's scheme. The priestess recoiled. Guards! Too late. Rimat grabbed the sacred bronze Naditu knife and pressed it to Ninshubur's throat. Fierce. Nullify his vow. Idun faced the royal judge under torchlight, Damig and Rimet at his side. Before them lay the lapis amulet, Ninshubur's confession tablet, Law 129, adultery with Gimel Ishkur, the recovered debt ledger from Gimel Ishkur's corpse. You admit smuggling temple goods, the judge intoned. Under extortion, Idun countered. Beltani threatened Law 116, debt slavery of my son. He nodded to Rimet. By Law 170, his freedom is secured by maternal silver. The judge turned to Damig. And you? Your son died from the priestess's cure. Damig placed the amulet at the Stele's base. Let Ishtar judge her. I seek only to rebuild my brewery and repay Idun's mercy. Silence hung thick as the judge consulted the law stone. Law 249. If a man hires an ox and a god strikes it dead, both parties shall divide the loss. A murmur rippled through the crowd. The judge raised his hands. The gods struck down Beltani and Gimel Ishkur. Their crimes die with them. Let the lapis return to Ishtar's shrine. Let debts from their schemes be void. Go in peace. Gimel Ishkur stormed into the Bit Asiri, scattering chained laborers. Find them! The brewer has the lapis! A mud brick shattered his temple. From the shadows, Urnamu, the brewer, Damig's owed creditor, stepped forward, face scarred by Gimel Ishkur's thugs. Behind him rose a tide of starved prisoners, weavers Idun had employed, farmers whose debts the loan shark had bought. You remember Law 117? 3 years of service wipes clean a debt. But you sold children before their term ended. Gimel Ishkur stumbled back. I am protected by dead Beltani? A woman hurled a tin ingot, stamped with Idun's stolen mark. It cracked his jaw. You took my daughter for 12 shekels! The mob surged like the Euphrates in flood season. Gimel Ishkur's scream was cut short by the thud of hammers on bone. Idun faced the royal judge under torchlight, Damig and Rimet at his side. Before them lay the lapis amulet, Ninshubur's confession tablet, Law 129, adultery with Gimel Ishkur, the recovered debt ledger from Gimel Ishkur's corpse. You admit smuggling temple goods, the judge intoned. Under extortion, Idun countered. Beltani threatened Law 116, debt slavery of my son. He nodded to Rimet. By Law 170, his freedom is secured by maternal silver. The judge turned to Demig. And you? Your son died from the priestess's cure. Demig placed the amulet at the Steely's base. Let Ishtar judge her. I seek only to rebuild my brewery and repay Idun's mercy. Silence hung thick as the judge consulted the law stone. Law 249. If a man hires an ox and a god strikes it dead, both parties shall divide the loss. A murmur rippled through the crowd. The judge raised his hands. The gods struck down Beltani and Gimel Ishkur. Their crimes die with them. Let the lapis return to Ishtar's shrine. Let debts from their schemes be void. Go in peace. Idun stood on his roof again, the Euphrates gleaming below. Remat's voice rose from the courtyard. Let in shipments from Ari, packed by noon. As their son tallied tin ingots with renewed pride. Damig approached, bearing amphorae of fresh-brewed beer. First batch, sweetened with honey from Ur-Nammu's hives. He nodded to the weaver's daughter, now Damig's apprentice, her debt erased. Idun sipped. The beer tasted of smoke and river water, of barley and hope. We'll call it Mercy of the Code, he said. Downriver, laborers scrubbed Gimel Ishkur's blood from the law steel. The city breathed on.